O, cefyd y hasio.
Ha Gwydoedd cymryd hasio Beinn.
A mi gyfad Gàidhlig. Agus chain pen yn y horse.
Smisje Jos o Morocco. Ach bi fion ik oor mac wurigi en denje ma a hakin ja. Ach se enjem nog gehaald ko you.
Agus coas a hau.
Sana Brunswick nua a rogig me. Agus sana bada nervion a hannig ma winchert. Ach rogig misje aan een mountain dat er werd a vorige gaan. Waar ma had a koper aan hit aan een mountain.
Okay, play that. So, well, is like a chase swanne gehackerd.
Well, can je misje, gewel Jos, mach laurisch, ich laurisch, ich hemisch, ich homisch, agus, ga mi kreetjing nach bi Seamus Ella aan zijn tradition.
Okay, play that. Agus coas a hannig a mocha lekkerd.
Sound a shiramach no conti lu. Shin conti no and shiramach as lua on an eden. Agus has shin fashke drochada on conti lu. Agus has shin etet balferstja agus balaclia. Agus hay girach anun aster etere. So can you miss a gaveli chimical da ishit sa koik milchen pua balaclia.
Like that. Agus cefyd y hwnnw awas ar y Gaelic.
Hannig mi go Hebreistin, dar va mi og, chan mi go Colaisde a verdes chwatisch. Par ro mi a gionsag ag injala tarach. Agus san an osin a va mi se a geistach rys a radio. Gi sahan va seo. Agus ho mi gu a radio. Agus va che aum. Agus she Rosemary McCormick. No, Rosemary Hutchison. Nicht Kirsten. Rosemary nicht Kirsten. San as an shantuische vaische. Ach vaische kopa dan a sha. Son Fortress Louisburg an orshin. Agus va program CBC eische. Gach Guiseid is a CBC. Agus ho mi is agus ishe bring an canon nianach galse. Agus san a hanshin a chur mi keist fair a vas a class akamus. Agus she ke Breton nach gawaun. San a New Waterford a vai. Frank Roach and then him a vez. Agus gonnish mi go Frank. A rank je canon I had to bring a radio and it's a Gaelic. Agus oorstessen ha gajera. Agus oors me an be dunje mon goorste sha. Agus Gaelic achgesen. San a rekkerstessen ha Gléidheadh. Ach sin a shaun dunje an kujas mo. Agus san in 1972 about shin. Agus ek an oor shin an kujas mo na dunja ounsam duwish. Avas kion o chanimi da ishid bliene a gurs no leshiet bliene a gurs. Va Gaelic achgesen an oor shin. So shin a rekkerstessen. Agus as jo shin va shansaknamus bu operach a chanin a yellow an a sutni collery Rosemary oam goam. Agus shin nor a hoshish me a rad fata avam.
Agus no Gaelic ek the Farrington.
Charo gu achka.
Agus kun je hannig go aan for nua.
Sauna 1972 of Ashin, so in nu kg 3 fiches da year. Okay, met dat.
Agus an no Gaelic aus the skull an no de wel big.
Charo a sidger. Dar va mi gan skol sauna Ottawa gas mi sues. Hoor mi maar a hawk an an Ottawa. Yimprishing to Ottawa dar va mi davli en a gush. Agus sauna norshin avan na mra kravish. The nuns, the grey nuns, achinia. So skull. Agus an kudjas moa you son of Montreal avad. Ach an kudja vachinia son of Pembroke avayetsen. So she o muinchid edenach avayetsen na nuns, the grey nuns ut. Agus mashin an orshin va oren goleir achinia ansen skull. Agus she oren edenach a bhíigh sin a cleachtach. Agus mar sin san a hon sin bheit suim mór acinne an ceol na héireann agus sin a reason sin an fact gun churmí céiste Frank ag a chohaiste and sin a Gaelic a hána agus san bheit mis smúting go canin marab a bheith na Gaelic.
Well, snack can find it.
Okay, maar dat.
En wel Gaelic, I can share what Breton or.
Ga niet goed achtersen. Al ga bekken ik manien, agus ma wachsen, agus ik ma van gejara. San is gas wel san kamas lehen a isje, agus Sean Tai a muincher. Agus va Gaelic ik a parentin, Gaelic leeuwen, agus ving gachlechtig kon de diuwe.
So je had je bria Shaw.
Zeker, jara, had je bria.
Isha me en had je Shaw, agus na Beinn, you know.
Okay, well, she balle a hanne Shaw, agus farro cro, agus eish, agus mochken, agus kasken, agus collish. So holle shean achgas an o humata, agus ha cro an gira kan drast, elsa fask, gujera, and Jay Hannick wood agus ha essen he is on sa fask agus a shaw bria hakad ja on a shaw skaskavishing tuve venjuk agus 32 a word a geisking agus 32 ellen a friumsa a geisking kojach agus ellen vargari agus ruan shawi smashin san a han govel shing Guma fata as kion of wood on a shaw, hashing leshiet, coic kiet, troyen as kion wood, as kion of wood. Agus a smushin son of a hunchin give a shower, bria, fatin, akinya. Agus 42 an amashet, a ching, of wood, fat ass. So hashin family going. Agus 42 Bal no ga a reisking kojach ar napi and Gillis ella she kwani liesa ava an dunya va shaw agus she kwani liesa an dunya ella tevela a raj faravel Gillisish a for a hast agus 42 Beinn a reisking she Beinn a kushak and then you behead agus hentenium eed is gas go more and balchen a chin richele a chin cone richele mulach na venjuk an a hitak agus Beinn kushak and then you mave avec mave shele dat a weisje bel
En je met de Beinn Shaw?
Ga de goor mi rie wel she Gillisish a han de shaw ganeden then you Beinn Gillisish a head. En je zegt, men gaat gewoon meer rief en je ari en zo'n wijn shaw. Get hij nas hartje, na wijn je shin.
Agus che ten of the film the full of shaw. Ernest.
She Ernest run, Ernest short.
Okay.
So as much as she Ernest, I guess she run ahet, I guess a hennet, she Ernest. Agus a hin hennet she Ernest edda avan. So agus she morally she vonta. Agus she Gillisach avan ma vahers hele kojach. Agus smushin no the faucet agus va kwalnachga vat Gillisish a goerkut. Okay. Agus she kennedach avan muincher ma bheit scéile agus bhil bhéise Gillisach amahir sé ceannadach agus sanna ceanna bhách a bheit san agus ach nuair a bheith ise á bheit fearm bheit bailla achgus a ddíireacha seo far a gas is suas.
En eerst er some show ethnic Gaelic.
Okay, met haar.
Find it severe.
Check.
What? What's your name?
Okay, my name is Joe Murphy.
Right. And where are you from?
I was born in New Brunswick, and my people come from St. John, New Brunswick. My mother from Newfoundland, but my family is from St. John. But they were living in Moncton for a few years when I was born,
Right.
and so it was in Moncton that I was born.
Uh-huh. And so you were brought up in Moncton, and...
Well, I lived there till I was 2, and then I said to my parents, Moncton, what are you thinking? And we moved to Ottawa, and my father worked in the federal government in Ottawa. He was an engineer,
Right.
and so he worked in the federal government, and that's where I grew up and went to school with the Grey Nuns.
Right.
And so it's from them that we heard a lot of old Irish songs when we were kids,
Yeah.
and some Scottish songs too.
Yes, there's quite a strong Irish group in Ottawa.
Oh, in the Ottawa Valley, yeah,
Yes.
in the neighborhood where we grew up, we were at school the only English-speaking family of Murphys. All the rest spoke French.
Wow.
Yeah, they were all French-speaking. So there were a lot of French-speaking people and a lot of Irish descended people in the neighborhood where we lived. And so most people around there who grew up there grew up to be bilingual. We were lucky. Yeah.
So you speak French as
I
well?
do, yes, oh yeah.
Great. So you're trilingual.
Oh
Or
yeah.
multilingual.
Yeah.
Very good. So how were you introduced to Gaelic?
Well, when I was going to college, I came here to Cape Breton to study engineering at the Coast Guard College, the Canadian Coast Guard College. The only one in Canada is here in Cape Breton.
Right.
And I came here in 1972 to study engineering, as my father was a marine engineer, and I was interested in doing the same sort of work.
Mm-hmm.
And so I came to college, and it was on a Saturday morning. We were in our cabins cleaning out for our inspection, and I had the radio on, and there was a woman on the radio, and she was talking, and a strange language. So we only had 2 Cape Bretoners in our class. So I asked this man from New Waterford, Frank Roach, Frank, is that Gaelic that woman's talking? Because I thought, there are Scottish people around here. And he said, oh yeah, that's Gaelic. The older people around here, especially in the country, they pretty well can all speak Gaelic. People above the age of 40 or 50, they can all speak Gaelic. And that was 1972, so 45 years ago now. This is 2017. So I took an interest in listening to the program, and then the lady, Rosemary, she's in McCormick now, but she was a Hutchison then, and her people came from South Uist, I think, or Barra, South Uist, I think. But she was working as an historian at Fortress Louisburg, which they were rebuilding then.
Oh, yes.
She had a regular program, Mactawa Nanyedan, Island Echoes, on the radio.
I remember listening to
Yeah,
it.
well, the first host had died the year before. His name was Hugh Francis Mackenzie, Hughie Mackenzie. He was a bard from Christmas Island, and he had been the first host of that program.
Uh-huh.
He wanted to call it just Mactawa, like the Gaelic newspaper.
Yeah.
But on his way up to the CBC station that day, he ran into his brother, Archie, and told him what he was up to, going to do this program on the radio, Mactawa. And Archie, who was always a fan of original composition, said, well, couldn't you have make it your own name? And this show is going to go out all over the island. Maybe you could call it Island Echoes.
Yeah.
And Mactawa Nanyaran. And so Huey said, that's a good idea. So when they went to the CBC, that was the program name that they put on it.
So I was asking if there's any family members that speak Gaelic, your brothers or sisters or
No, none of them.
relatives.
None of them have a breath of Gaelic.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So I'm sure they like the music.
They do, yes. Oh, yeah. Well, we were brought up, singing those songs when we were kids, when we'd be in the car, going anywhere, or my mother being a Newfoundlander, and my father, when she was going around the house, she'd be often singing old Newfoundland and Irish songs.
Right.
And my father, when he would be under the car,
Uh-huh.
seemed to spend every non-working hour underneath some old car and out in our backyard.
Uh-huh.
You could hear him out there singing
Yeah.
these old songs, and yeah.
Good. So we talked about this place right here where we're doing the interview. It's in Broad Cove area. But, you can tell us about it. It's a beautiful spot.
It is too. Colaisde is the Gaelic name for it, which just means broad cove, or a broad twist in the coastline. Cam is the Gaelic word for twist or a crooked thing. And so it's a broad cove because it goes a long way. It goes from Dunvegan right over to Broad Cove Banks. And it includes the village, formerly a town, of Inverness. And sure enough, when Inverness was established as a community, it was for the coal mining industry. But even then, when it was established, it was called Broad Cove Mines. It was only around 1902 or 1904 or something that they changed the name to Inverness to reflect the fact that it was here in the county of Inverness. And so that's where we are, and we're here, and we're about 500 feet up the side of a mountain. So we have great fields of fire up here, a great view. And you can see right over to Prince Edward Island. There's a little haze on today because here we are August 1st. And so there's a little haze and you can't see PEI. But when it's clear, you can see it quite well. And certainly at nighttime, we can see the light of East Point, the light station. There's a light station there. And with field glasses, when it's clear, you can see the lightkeeper's dwelling right beside the light tower. And, of course, we can see out to Marguerite Island. That's right, On the nautical charts, it's called Sea Wolf Island. And there is another name on it, too. I can't remember. And no doubt the Mi'kmaq had a name for it. And then up the other way, as I say, we can see almost to Sight Point, up Broad Cove Banks and out that way.
See Cape Mabu.
We can see up to Cape Mabu, and we can see the North Highlands of Cape Mabu and where the common pastures are. So we have a nice view up here. And this farm has been owned by the Gillises. They're Gillises, they're Morar people. It's been owned by them since 1834. So based on that, we kind of suspect that they probably have been here since about 1825 or so. So this is Broad Cove that we're in, and the farm that we have here that we're on belongs to my in-laws, and they're Gillises. And that's, by the way, is the Broad Cove Tartan. That's right behind me here. You can see it? Sure. Okay. And you can see, of course, that it's got a lot of the colors that are important to the people around here. The thistle, the color of the thistle here, and the green hills, and the black because of the coal mines that were in Broad Cove Mines in Inverness. And I think the white is for snow and purity of heart and that sort of thing. And then, of course, the golden sunshine. And the blue indicating the fact that we're a cove right along the coastline here. And so the water makes a big part of the life here of people who were fishermen. And there's still fishing goes on here, mostly lobster and crab.
Very beautiful. Do you know who won that piece you have there?
Oh, I think it belonged to my mother-in-law. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
So it's registered. It's a registered tartan.
It is.
Yeah. So, so we're in Broad Cove here, and this is the sort of the main part of Broad Cove. It's not Broad Cove Marsh or Broad Cove Chapel or Broad Cove Banks or all those places. And so...
the ancestors here were Angus?
That's right. And this was my father-in-law. This was his family home. He grew up here. He was born in 1917. And his name was Angus Rowan Ishawk. So Angus Rowan Ishawk means his name was Angus, and his father was Ronald Gillis, and his grandfather was Angus as well, and he's Unish Oak, meaning young Angus. So that would tell me that his great grandfather was also named Angus, and they were Morarish. They came from Morar in Scotland, on the mainland, and the west near the west coast somewhere, and Kathy's mother, she was a Gillis as well. And they were Morarish as well. And she grew up here in Broad Cove in Brook Section. So it's about 2 or 3 farms over from here in an area called Brook Section. And her father was a Gillis, and her mother was a Kennedy from Loch Ban. No, not Loch Ban. That's where his grandmother came from. She was from Kenloch. They're from Kenloch. And so that's the Swannog of the people. And they came here. The family history traditions are that they, like a lot of the settlers who came here, when they first came from Scotland, were in PEI, and some were in Pictou County, but I think it's the tradition that they have that that their family came across from PEI. So people sometimes would be over there for a year or more, getting themselves organized and finding where they should settle best. But they came here. The family was granted this land in 1834. And I think from what I can understand that with the granting process from the Crown, you have to have been on the land for a few years, improving the land before they would grant it to you. Yes. They wouldn't just give it to you willy-nilly. Yeah. And so if they had been on it for, let's say, 8 or 9 years before that, though maybe they might have come here as early as 1825. Yeah. And then this land is actually an amalgamation of 3 farms. They're one down there. So it's about 240 acres. And it's actually the joining together of 3 farms that they have here.
Now, is it possible they could have come from PEI right across directly to here, or would they have landed somewhere else?
They quite probably came right across here. You can land here. I don't know what the situation for wharves was in 1825, but boats were fairly small, and people could come across. And but they did bring some stuff with them, that had come from the old country. The only thing I think really that's here in the house that probably came from Scotland is the spinning wheel that's upstairs. They still have an old spinning wheel here. And I'm pretty sure that came from Scotland.
So it's how many miles across from here?
From here, in a straight line, nautical straight line, from here to East Point, it's about 65 nautical miles. Okay. Yeah, I know that from my work with the Coast Guard, because we had to organize rescue exercises here.
Interesting, indeed. So in this, me and an open jacket, couldn't you go with the course the Gaelic?
Oh, a Guiseid na Gaelic?
Yeah.
Okay, well, hashish me a Guiseid Beinn the Gaelic that me she choiste a ver is Scottish. I guess start me le Rosemary nish Christian an ocean. I guess a general boo an operach. I guess that a Jaime go Halifax for a Romeo Cooper se ver is Scottish. Hashish me coursish in a gal Connery Sornia McElane. I guess sauna Owen Dennis of our Sornia. I guess Bison na Meister Skull an ocean on a Dartmouth. I guess via Cassishin Oiche Ecke an ocean on a Dartmouth. I guess Hoshish Beinn the Harston Gaelic a Jonska Connery Sornia. I guess Harod na Planishinak in ya. And a chanin a Jonsakog. Hashing out as an Orden a Jonsakog, as Gaska, the Revig Sam, a Czechish, Gach Feskid, wie gessen a Czechish Orden Kujach, a Count the Heisha, wie gessen a Czechish Orden Gach Shaken, I guess sound a Hanshin, a Hashing out, I guess Haroshing a Kraching could be Shansak in ya. Gaelic a Jonsakog, I guess it's an chorige, get the lesson in ma, Haro Mishnach akin ya, commissioning a Genoa Rurst a Hanin Ihain.
Well, Hanin on and female or some use of
Hakajada, Hamish going to
the she Kirsten Nakamid.
Oh, there. Oh, yeah, Dunya Gasta, Sam.
I guess a rush of Reeve Copel Collie Cohen the Gaelic.
The mission and Val, the mission and member, the Hornian the Gaelic or Humat, I guess, Ryan Misha Rutnoga Pick called the you no at a Han Achkeson. I guess, a steward session and that have had public consultations acting ya, Saleja Shin. Being a general rutte can pick at a leger shin in a honachke.
I guess the whole of Bleana be wall mode.
I guess Manastrisha be Misha Dolan.
I guess sure so the open how Gléidheadh.
Well, Hamier open so very Scottish a little or hum nui blian sin in ishe. Ach, hiún físiad blian, start me a Gaelic a Czechish ag an Olhai on the Halifax, ag Olhai na Bhuide, St. Mary's University. Agus, that is good me an opad sa rialtas a vacamus, hoshish me na classician sin a Czechish on Savatin ag an Olhai. Agus, smushin, well, she da vatin gach shachken a being a Czechish a Gaelic ag an Olhai. Agus she bunchorsa a haun. Agus, hamish ga yeno sa yaurig hast.
Agus, do you Czechish Arden culture?
Oh, oh yeah, gach shachken. Be shing hionsakag Arden. Agus shanach goen. Agus, that a hoshish me a Gaelic a Czechish gach an Olhai. Van could just mo na dunya around that Kaniel Achasen ri keprechten. Och an could just mo a vis ching a nish. Chanir Kaniel Achasen. Son of the hanchin gumbi me a bring me yen keprechten. Agus na dunya a hana shaw. Agus na gael. Agus a kielachog and doi behe a hachkasen. Agus a vachkasen. Agus bishing a bring me yen an echteri na gael. Agus Sean Skelwishin, agus Neachgan, a Vachka, agus Naharan, agus Shanachwan, as a legishin. Okay. Well, the case jacket, me na Fakwa and Famil, a Vach Nangael, or no, na Shanachwa and a Vachkasan. Agus had come a Famil, son and Doi Beha, agus na values, a Vach na Shan Gael. Agus fishing a bring me yin vacation jacket a ro Gaelic ik the winter. Agus son of a me smunchin the shanakal around a homeo Neil John Machgilius son of Balahamish of and Fashka Rayona, Fashka Soundary. Agus shogut shanakal of Neil John. Chachik as a forge, och an torch, a hincha. Chachik as a forge, och an torch, a hincha. Agus on severo vi get the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Yes.
Yeah. So chachik as a forge, och an torch, a hincha. So chanir fame a vi doel aket, rutiken a chinga o kujakan nu noch roshin ek a muinchen no a wincher. So Shenakit fed you, could you, I guess,
Yeah, the poor do you Castafall, Castafuda.
Oh, shag, Me in Kujakan, I guess, can you keen chuck JVS the Geno?
Undecided.
Shenakit, yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm more than you, I guess, J Vac, oh, yeah, Gidanish, va Etherin aan. Agus Maristriche gach bliene bi mi se gal Oren Gaelic ag an Etherin Ari a vi sound. Agus she 61st anniversary the Broad Cove concert an bliene. Agus well anudi she 60th anniversary of agus an bliene she 60th 60 years so 3 fished bliene. O hiún a hiet concert. Smashin gav me an oran a gav me an uri. Agus smashin va mi smunchin shanakol. Chavischte scale da a yinshuk. Chavischte scale da a yinshuk. A story is not spoiled or less good or ruined for having told it twice.
No.
So smashin gav me an oran a gav me an uri.
So do you Czechish Arden, agus Fakul female, agus Njerken, Njerken be Jacken.
Have fed courage, Akamus. A hannig on Atcha Shaw, sound Deepdale. Agus her a warach lean New Francie Hadiet. Gaileen, what's it? Gale Stream. Gale Stream, Hinakita. I guess, had Quara Gown did, John Dan MacKinnon. So, she mainit, around John Dan MacKinnon. I guess sounded deep deal of that essen. I guess, Charlotte Neach, Gorage of Ekison. I guess, Orstessen, Befeson Ostable, Trip of a show. I guess, Fatabring Fe, Schotonas of Ad. Be the cheating, I guess, a Kicha, a Holishian, a Vachkison, Sagarak. Ach, Vafer down. I guess, Orstessen. Or Misha Hoshachora, Orstessen. Guy, Vigi a cheating, a Nuis on vein. I guess, a clear that a Holishian of Achinia, Sagara Gakin. Ach, Hur Misha Hoshachora, Orstessen. Jaime Amach, I guess, ride me fensa. I guess, ride me an ensa, ho calm, whoopach. But vegi a ching a Lewis, vegi a lemag, a skjun an ensa. I guess vegi a landag, and until mwe yangara. So, should have neck of John Dan MacKinnon. So, vacation jacket, you were asking about my experience in teaching and that sort of thing in the language. And after, like anyone else, after I'd had about 20 years or more of learning about the language, I guess it was 20, maybe it wasn't even that much, years experience in trying to learn the language, people began to ask me, Joe, would you ever teach some of us some Gaelic? And it probably wasn't even 20, maybe even 10 years experience. And so I said, well, we could just do simple things. So people used to come to the house and we'd have Gaelic conversation in the house, at our house in Dartmouth. And we did that for a few years. And then those people had children. So they said, do you think you would give Saturday afternoon classes for kids? I thought, oh, that sounds like a bit of a falderall. And I wasn't really up for organizing all that. And my poor wife was making tea and cookies for these people every week. And she's a nurse, a hardworking nurse. And they said, oh, we'll organize everything. So they did. And we had classes in Halifax for a few years at St. Matthew's United Church on Barrington Street. Right. And we had classes in the gym there. Lots of room for the kids to run around. And there were a couple of other classes that we could use. Teaching them basic songs and basic conversation. And they could get in the gym and run around and stop, start, run, walk, go slow, jump up. And all the colors on the floor in the gymnasium were great because they could run and touch the red or the blue. So did that. And did that for years, for a few years. And then came down different times to St. FX, still taking little weekend courses and things like that in the Gaelic College, and which was a very helpful institution, and studied overseas and took courses like that, and but really it just was doing it for my own interest and really only for the sake of singing the songs, because I like to sing them just to myself more than or sitting around in the living room singing songs with friends. And so what happened then? So out of the blue, St. Mary's University, they had a chair of Irish Studies, which had started a few years before. And some people had taught Gaelic courses there, Scottish Gaelic courses, in the chair of Irish Studies. And they had come for about a year at a time. One from Ireland, one from Scotland. Dr. John Shaw, an American scholar who lives in Scotland and has lived there many years, and is a fluent speaker of Scottish Gaelic and writer, and so on and so on. He had come and taught and gone back. And Dr. Shoseph Watson, who was the Dean of Modern Irish at the University College Dublin, in Dublin, part of the National University of Ireland, he had come and taught there for a year. So Dr. Cyril Byrne, who was the coordinator of the Chair of Irish Studies, he asked me would I teach there. And I said, well, Cyril, I don't have a degree in Gaelic or Celtic Studies or anything like that. And he said, no, but you're teaching Gaelic. I said, yeah, well, that's from my own experience and learning and so on and so on. He said, well, we had two people teaching here, one from the National University of Ireland and one from the University of Edinburgh. If you could get a letter from them confirming that you have knowledge to, let's say, a master's degree in Celtic Studies, knowledge of the culture, the language, the music, the history of the people, as well as the language, then we can go forward to the Senate with that, and maybe they would appoint you. So I did. So I wrote a note to each of those profs, and they knew me, and they knew what I could or couldn't do. And they sent a note back, said, yes, so yeah, Mr. Murphy has knowledge to that level. And so they went to the Senate, and it was okay, and they hired me.
Excellent.
Yeah, so I've been teaching there for about 20 years.
And you use songs in your classes?
Yeah.
And you use stories?
Yes.
And you told a story in Gaelic a little earlier there.
Yes.
That you learned.
Mm-hmm.
Can you share that story now in English?
Okay, yeah. Well, that's a story that I heard from a man who lived in this neighbourhood, this community where we are, in this parish, but not right here in Broad Cove. He was in Broad Cove Parish, but he lived in Deepdale, which is one of the communities probably about 3 kilometres from here. Mm-hmm. And his name was John Dan MacKinnon, and he was from that area, and he was a coal miner when the coal mines were in operation in Inverness. And he was at our wedding too, and I knew John Dan, and his widow is still alive, and she'll be 100 this month. What? What's her name? Josephine MacKinnon. She was one of the Neil P. McClellans. And and John Dan had this story, and he had a wonderful voice. I always, whenever I tell that story, it always puts my mind thinking the way the first trip of a show. He had a very deep voice. Great voice for a small man. He wasn't a big man. He's like myself, small, but he had a great voice. And so the story that he had was there was a man in hospital this particular time, and they were talking about the deer and how bad they were. Oh, they were terrible. They'd be eating everything that the poor farmers were trying to grow in their little garden that they had by their house or in the fields. And but there was this fellow there, and he said, oh, I got ahead of her. He said, I got ahead of her. And he said, oh yeah, she'd be coming down the mountain and clearing out everything we had in the garden, just eating every morsel that was there. He said, but I got ahead of her. I went out and I made a fence, and I made that fence so crooked and twisted, when she'd come down the mountain and she'd jump over the fence, she'd land on the outside of the garden. And that was it.
He had the solution.
Oh yeah. You can't get ahead of those.
So now a second to be Shane on Gaelic the rest of the years.
Beinn.
I know that you sing Gaelic now and then, and that you've written some songs yourself. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us about that? And
okay.
And if you would like to sing a song for us, and explain about the song you're going to sing.
Yeah. Well, I had never written any songs in Gaelic or translated them really seriously until about 20 or 25 years ago. Mary MacLean, one of the lighthouse MacLeans from Gillis Point in Iona, asked me to translate a song by Sonny and Cher. I got you, babe. So how whack-em, babe. And so I did translate that for Mary and Colin MacLean from Washabuck. And they've often performed it. I saw them performing it again at Colin's parents' 50th wedding anniversary last month in Iona, or in Washabuck, or wherever it was between the two places. And so, and so I did translate a few little songs like that, and including a song by Pauline MacDonald. He was a wonderful Gaelic poet from Southwest Margaree, from Upper Margaree, Malcolm H. Gillis. And he wrote mostly in Gaelic, but he did write some songs in English. And so I did translate one of his songs at the start of the 100th anniversary of the First World War, because it was a rallying song about the First World War. And then last year was the 60th Broad Cove concert, and this year is the 60th anniversary of the first concert. So I wrote a song on an old country tune, Ania Nakacho Goin Nachanu. That song. So I wrote a song about the Broad Cove concert on that air. Yeah. But Shagut Aran escrive Misha Anuri son 2016 of Ashin agus bis an trí-fiisiative concert cohead a Broad Cove a bhain annuity. So scríb mí áran seo agus scríb mí an áran fánn tradiisianta a bhain agus an as an sean dúis a hánig an fánn agus sé áran sean áran rééis mí nach áran bhuag a bhain a níanach a chógain nach anú. Agus sé áran go animal agus scríb mí sé an áran seo a níanach a chógain nach chicu. So, shagute. Aniana kachogoin ak chiku, fise chirgur mi dolanan, Niana kachogoin ak chiku. Aniana gurna shrun ak chiku, Anogu chirlan dunya fiowi, Niana kachogoin ak chiku, fise chirgur mi dolanan, Niana kachogoin ak chiku. Fara bina creja siŵr, mar elir eisiau tŵr ysbliano, Niana chacw, goin ac chicu, Fyser chirgur mina lianan, Niana chacw, goin ac chicu. Sikiona fira hanan tawag, She is nual an dosh sampetan, Niana chacw, goin ac chicu, Fyser chirgur mina lianan, Niana chacw, goin ac chicu. Santa parin pina viser arish, Mar fwy achos rhan trocher y gain, Niana chacw, goin ac chicu, Fyser chirgur mina lianan, Niana chacw, goin ac chicu. Nur heis a griag an oestan i'r sy'n far yn byr gach chŵl, gach sŵl a tiwdag, Niana chacw, goin ac chicu, Fyser chirgur mina lianan, Niana chacw, goin ac chicu. Dawn sy'r inlan riel yn cehyr, Sgem yn ges I mar bacor, Niana chacw, goin ac chicu, Fyser chirgur mina lianan, Niana chacw, goin ac chicu. Big a chwas gacw a gydach, Awn rawn a ddageinia na nuia, Niana chacw, goin ac chicu, Fyser chirgur mina lianan, Niana chacw, goin ac chicu. Mus iawr I syng bydd amach o gawn, Gyn chimi sa chofwm gawn bliana, Niana chacw, goin ac chicu, Fyser chirgur mina lianan, Niana chacw, goin ac chicu. Ac yta. Agus sé onan ysgrifi hon ma fansa. Kate, nian unnys rwm na Gléidheadh.
Sin edit go.
Oh, sé da fe.
Okay, so the song is written for your wife?
It was, yes, yeah. And her father was Angus Rao Unishaw. So that's why the first line says, Ania nak unis room, nak chiku. Yeah.
Very fitting.
Yeah, well.
The area and everything. Look at that. So, and you wrote it for the concert in Broad Cove
in 2016. Yeah, it was the 60th concert last year. Yes. And this year is the 60th anniversary. So we had the 61st concert this year.
Right. And the concerts have always played a big part in your life too. And I know that last Sunday that you were one of the MCs at the concert.
I was.
Yeah. That was
Be that fact praise or blame. But there you go. Yeah.
And you sang that song again at this year's.
I sang it at the Mass. They have a special Mass every year on the morning before the concert.
Yes.
And my wife always says, the Mass is the first act of the concert.
Yes.
So because there's lots of Gaelic singing goes on and fiddling and all that sort of thing and piping before the Mass starts.
And I'm sure the church was packed.
Yes, yeah. And since I sang the same song this year as I sang last year on the anniversary of the concert, I gave them that little proverb that we mentioned earlier, which was Chavish to scale da'u the yinsho. A story is not worsened by having been told 2 times.
Gets better.
Yeah, well, I'm a dolphus.
So, Anish, Yn ôl riaf Ansanel, pa?
Va mi an trip no ga. A shit tors a chaimi an son a nuchi giek 3 fichets a shia giek. Agus beshit a shit tors a vakamas an na roindin orapa. Agus va misha an a wonin kolari karstern an a hitak. Agus va kara jakamas. Agus va kar eishisha. Agus orstisha. Nach jenshing tors go na Lake District. Agus go awapa kujak agus ching a rash go wonin. So chaishing an agus chaishing agus chajaksing ach go donation agus choshing wa no ga an a donation. Agus chaimish gan skull ewish na hawapa that a misha an. Not a misha an. It's a vamisha a sheer of fachwan an ocean. Agus chaimi go Carnock Hjorish, George Square, for a veil skull ewish na hawapa, the School of Scottish Studies, like an old time donation. Agus chaimi an, agus ha lewer lawn an, agus chaimi is stay, agus va bodamach an, ek a vorst an a hitak, agus worst mis ria, Goromi a giri a dolas jack gan lewer lawn, agus worst is well, she lewer lawn, ari a hakin ye shaw, agus ha putting the dunya sabi a dol lawn, agus ha kujik nawn, agus 50 essen gat kujikug, agus hai trying, hai triple, jirach and shaw, jirach and ish, biesne ching and amach, agus hanikes and amach, agus joey minutes, no ga? Agus co around Seamus McKinnon, Hamish Henderson, skrivet til animal around, agus je bard around, fair skrive The Banks of Sicily, agus John McLean's March, agus Oren Alege Shin, agus Hamish Stjach Col Larish, agus Dunja Gasta around a Hamish, agus no the Jaime is stay. Chud mi súl man gúrst a lewerland a bhacha agus mé bháin lewerishin echtri na hawapa agus áran agus a Gaelic agus hola sin ach hop mé nada va skellep out agus a shit skellep a ceann a skellep sin for a ro Cape Breton's magazine agus va hola copy a hola leverach achasan an a hitak agus be Ron Kaplan go ma Boston ma vi assessing a geisking sin.
Agus Conibel an the north.
Well, vami an agus Jaime Arash on 1985 agus nuke GK had featured Coic agus Jaime an some course a Gaelic a gal Scottish na Scottish na Halifax on a donation agus Jaime an agus vami an all da hecken no caucus no 3 shacken and no ledger shin a used cook na Gaelic that about me on agus as Joey shin catch and jack me Jaime go open agus hook me a vata agus Jaime go barai Jaime gan elen varai agus vami on fat shacken no ledger shin a shiolag man gorst agus a forach Fashker by a hastel, agus hacken be a dunya, a go Gaelic, agus famishe bring riu, agus grimy Cailin no ga, ek na taien achas in the ocean, agus a stioishin Jaime Arash, gan chir maud na hawapa, agus a stioishin Jaime go Erin, some tourist geno Karsten of Akamason and Erin. Agus a stioishin Jaime Arash, go awapa on a new KG had featured a new giek. Agus Jaime go ranel and lewish. Agus va Karsten akamas on an lewish. Agus on an elan scalpai na herrig. Agus Jaime on agus Jaime too Orison an ocean go morach nicht large. Agus vig morach a ching go Cape Preston o am go am a Czechish get Colaisde na Gaelic. Agus chaimi aon agus raimi tú ora. Agus Bill Lawson agus feminine le an storna bheith cúideach mar Coinneach MacKinnon a fer a bhí a BBC agus a hon gum bhíing a genu aiscin a BBC ó am goáil agus mar sin chaimi an studio agus an a storna bhaid agus bheith mi an fat seach an nó ga agus bheith ma chuirdaú. Agus chaimi go Sherivish Ecoish Ecoish Vic Ernthach Free Presbyterian Church agus chaimi an san Sherivish Judanish farró at the gaul agus a presenta na salmon agus goróisiid bria seans fórstanach a bhacamas a dul chomlaí tseawach farró mi furach agus ó chuirdaú an Sherman agus an Sherman chog agus na lesanan agus na Salomon an sa Gaelic fat.
So in English, just a little bit of explanation. You visited Scotland?
Yes, I was there only really 3 times. In 1976, we were in the Lakes District. After leaving London, I went there with a friend of mine, and we went up to Edinburgh just for a couple of days, just made a little loop. And but I wanted to go to the School of Scottish Studies to do some quick research in the library there, looking for the words to a song, which in the end wasn't an old traditional song anyway. I found out it had been written by Archie Fisher. And so what happened? I went to the School of Scottish Studies in George Square in Edinburgh. And when I went in to the office, there was a woman at the desk there, and she said, well, we just don't let people go in willy-nilly into the library, but we will let people go in. But someone will have to go in with you unless you're registered as a scholar here. And she said, Mr. Henderson will be out to help you shortly. So I waited a few minutes, and out came a man, Mr. Henderson, and he introduced himself to me, Hamish Henderson, Hamish Henderson. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is Hamish Henderson, the famous Gaelic bard. Well, he didn't write in Gaelic, famous Scottish bard, who wrote The Banks of Sicily and John McLean's March, and The Freedom Come All Ye, which is a very popular song. And when the new Parliament was opened at Holyrood Castle in Edinburgh, a singer got up and sang a couple of songs. I think it was Isla St. Clair maybe who sang. And I think this song, the Freedom Come All Ye, was one of the songs that she sang. And so Hamish Henderson took me in to the library, and we did some research. But when I walked in, the first thing I noticed on the top shelf, the very first shelf in there, in the library, was a whole shelf dedicated to Cape Breton's magazine. And I was very happy to see that. And I'm sure Ron Kaplan would be happy to see that too. And so we were only there a couple of days. And then I went back in 1985 and to take some courses at the School of Scottish Studies. And that was good. And Hamish Henderson was still there, still alive. And Ian Fraser was a very interesting man, was a lecturer there. And he was an onomastologist, a person who studied place name histories. And so he was very interesting. And Morag MacLeod was still there, and a few others, including Mairet Bennett, the woman who researched Gaelic, in the eastern townships of Quebec and in Newfoundland, especially the MacArthurs and MacDonalds, who came from here in Broad Cove and lived in the Corduroy Valley. There's big connections between those MacArthurs and Broad Cove. And even Lochie Danen had some funny little stories, and Archie Dan McClellan had stories about the old bull that the MacArthurs had that would be getting loose, and they had little nursery rhymes that to keep the kids, to get them to go to bed at nighttime, and saying that MacArthur's bull was on the loose, It was those same MacArthurs who later went down to the Corduroy Valley. And then I went back in 1999, and in the interim, I had done some reporting for the BBC on Radio Nangail for Coinneach MacKinnon on his program Coinneach Gúist on the BBC, and because of the air crash, the Swiss air crash And I was working in the Coast Guard then in search and rescue, still working for the Coast Guard. So I did some reports for the BBC. So I visited him in Stornoway, and I went down to Scout Gléidheadh and visited Maureen MacLeod, who used to come to the Gaelic College here in St. Anne, Colaisde Gaelic, and she was a fabulous source of information. She's very well grounded in the language and in the songs of Lewis and of Scotland, and visited Bill Lawson, down near Tarburst, and he also a great source of information in genealogy, and visited him and his wife Chrissy down there, and that was about a week or 10 days I spent there in Lewis.
So Joe, I understand you do a lot of artwork, and you're very interested in art.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that?
Okay. Well, I always had an interest in drawing and in calligraphy, from many years. And, well, I won't tell you the whole long story, but I did take up calligraphy when I was at Coast Guard College because I had such terrible handwriting and really bad handwriting. So I was always practicing it. And then one of the teachers saw me practicing my handwriting in class. It was in French class. And as I said, we were lucky growing up in Ottawa. When we finished high school, we were bilingual. And I was always in a bilingual job when I worked in the government. That's 36 years in bilingual jobs. And so I was practicing my handwriting in French class. And the French teacher saw me doing that. And he didn't mind because I could keep up with the French class. And so he asked me one time, would I learn to do calligraphy? And then he had a project for me to do. And so I did. He paid for the materials, and I got pen and ink and learned how to do calligraphy. And then he had a whole bunch of certificates. He was a Frenchman, of course, teaching French, but he was from Saskatchewan. But living in Cape Breton, they were trying to learn square dancing. And so he was taking a course at the end of which they were going to get a certificate, Bachelor of Square Dancing. And so that's the certificates that I had to do. And then when I was on the icebreakers and all that, when we'd cross the Arctic Circle, I would write out the Arctic Circle certificates for the crew and that sort of thing. And I was only a cadet at the time, so of course we'd charge them $2 per certificate. Myself and another fellow, he would color them in, and I would do the calligraphy. And we would earn a few dollars doing that sort of thing. So, and then over the years, I took an interest in art. And when I retired, there was an art show near us in Dartmouth, and it was watercolors. And Kathy, my wife, went to see this art show. And she said, Joe, this beautiful art show at the gallery downtown. This man, a local man, an engineer from the Technical University of Nova Scotia, has a show there of watercolors. And I thought, wonder what that looks like. So I went down, and they were beautiful, wonderful, by a man named Ron Hazel. So, and then he was giving a workshop, a weekend workshop for about 3 days. So I bought some watercolor materials, and I went to the workshop. And that got me started on painting in watercolors, and then in pastels and charcoal and oils and acrylics. And so using different styles and doing workshops, and I've taken a number of courses, excuse me, at NASCAD, Nova Scotia College of Art and Design, and courses in portraiture and acrylic portraiture, oil portraits, figure drawing, figure painting, and that sort of thing. And so that's really what I like to do. I like to do people, mostly portraits and figure drawings and figure paintings of people or scenes that have people in them. Yeah. So
you paint mainly in oil?
No, whatever. Watercolor, oil, acrylics. For portraits, watercolor and oil are the best, as far as I'm concerned, because they blend so easily, so that you can get all the different, gentle gradations of color and shape and tone that a person has, compared to acrylics, which if you use acrylic medium, you can get blending. But those other two are even better for it. Yeah.
So can you show us some samples?
Okay. There's here. This is just a quick sketch. Oh, he said, reaching out of the camera, and that's only just a quick sketch. That was done in pencil, and then it's
I'm going to zoom in on that.
colored.
Hold it up a little higher, though.
Yeah, and it's colored in with felt marker.
Yeah,
there it is.
Maybe down below.
Okay, how's that?
That's
It's
great.
colored in felt marker, and I thought I would show you this one because I just happen to have it here, and it's of a Gaelic speaker, Father Alan Macmillan, who lives in Gàidhlig. He's the parish priest there, and I won't mention his age, but he's getting up there, and yet still very active in Gaelic music, and led the choir. The choir at Caution and Ellen, right? The one that was started by Maureen Rankin, Archie Rankin's daughter, and so he led them at the Broad Cove concert on Sunday. So there he is, and that's a little sketch based on an image from the Broad Cove concert a few years ago. Okay,
beautiful.
So that's just pencil with felt marker coloring. And here's an acrylic painting, and it's the view just outside of the door here of the house, and you can see a truck, and that's an old truck that belonged to my brother-in-law, and I think that truck is still returning to the vile earth whence it sprang. It's decaying somewhere in the back 40 here, but my brother-in-law was working on it at the time. You can see doing some body work. That's my brother-in-law, Bobby Gillis, and a very handy guy. What a wonderful carpenter, and just a hard worker, like all the people in the in the country around here. And so there he is working on it, and you can see in the background the Mabu Highlands and the North Highlands where the common pastures are, and it tumbles down towards Broad Cove banks and then out into the Gulf of St. Lawrence, and you can see the little village of Inverness just where the land meets the water, and Bobby working on his truck, and then the land in between, sort of Deepdale and Campbellton.
Beautiful, John. Beautiful.
Thanks.
And there's one on the wall.
There is one on the wall.
Right behind.
That's my mother-in-law. Should I take it down? Or what?
Maybe I can move the camera to zoom in on it.
Well, I don't know if you'll have much light. Well, I'll bring it around. They're only light. Here we go.
Okay. Great. Oh, that's good if you hold it right there.
Yeah. Okay. That's my mother-in-law.
Okay. Can you hold it up a bit?
Yep.
There. Lovely. Your mother-in-law.
That's my mother-in-law. That's Mary Emma Gillis, and she was a Gillis, and she married a Gillis, and she's from Brook section. She was born May 10th, 1921, and she died in March of 2015. And she was a Gaelic speaker, as were all of her ancestors, of course. And I spoke with her in Gaelic quite a bit, and she was one of the impetus for me trying to move ahead in my Gaelic. And she's holding a little chicken there, a little chick, which had been out in the yard and somebody brought in. And I asked her, "Do you have any head?" And she said, "Chicken a little." And so that's Mary Emma, and that's done in acrylic. And, it's an example to me of when you get a bit of inspiration, the difference, that you can do in a portrait. Usually a portrait, even one smaller than this, takes from 25 to 50 hours to do. And this one was done in less than 6 hours.
Wow.
And I did a portrait of a very dear friend of Seamus Watson, a friend of his who teaches at NASCAD, Marlene, and can't think of her last name.
Ivy?
Pardon?
Ivy?
Marlene Ivy, right.
Yeah.
And did one of her, and in an hour and 15 minutes, an oil portrait.
Imagine.
Yeah. It just went bing, 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 bing. Yeah. And she liked it enough she has it on the wall in her house.
Very good. Okay.
So that's just a couple of the paintings.
So now, in English again, what sort of changes have you seen over the years, Joe, with regard to Gaelic language and culture here in Nova Scotia?
Yeah, well, my exposure to Gaelic started in about 1972. That's 45 years ago now. And in those days, pretty well anybody above the age of 40 who lived in the country, that is to say outside of Sydney, the industrial area where I was going to college, that most of those people had Gaelic, or at least could understand a good bit of Gaelic. And once you traveled out to the country to Christmas Island and areas like Iona, even people even younger than that had Gaelic. Whereas in around Sydney, there were quite a few people who were what I would at that time have called middle-aged, people who were in their 30s, 40s, 50s, who had quite a bit of Gaelic because of family connections to people in the country. And so I did hear people speaking Gaelic. Danny Campbell was a man I used to visit quite a bit. He and his wife Margaret, that's Donnie Campbell's parents. And they had, you know Donnie, who has a radio program in Sydney, right? Yeah, he's a very dear friend. He played at our wedding. And his mother, Margaret, was a McGuinness, related to Danjo McGuinness, the fiddler. And so she was from Woodbine, outside of Sydney. And she had a good bit of Gaelic for simple conversation. And Danny Campbell, his family came from up around Hector's Point in Iona. And so he had, simple conversational Gaelic, talking about the weather, what are you doing, close the door, open the window, that sort of thing. Yeah. So, but in the country, the older people, they were just completely fluent, not just in the language, but all the idiom, all the little subtleties of the language and different expressions and stories and songs and proverbs and just a wealth of information about working around the farms and around boats and all the parts of a house and the parts of a barn and cattle and how to tend for sheep and marking them and clipping their ears and all of the different names for those clips that they would do to identify sheep and all that sort of thing. They had all that. And over the years, of course, those people passed on and not as many younger people were learning Gaelic 40 or so years ago. In spite of the fact that it has been taught at the university here for well over 100 years at St. FX and is taught at Cape Breton University and at the Gaelic College and in the community. But in the last 20 or so years, the efforts made by people, and you can't diminish the importance of the work of people who came here from away, people who came from Scotland, to teach Gaelic in the school system, people who are still active, like, not in the school system, but they're still active in the community, like Effie Rankin. And she was a McCorkadale from North Uist, and Margie Beaton, and who came from Eriskay, and those people in keeping the language up. So, a lot of people came from the old country, including those ladies that I mentioned, Effie McCorkadale Rankin and Marjorie Beaton and many others, Mardina Stewart from Portree in the Isle of Skye, and people who taught at the Gaelic College, like Finlay McNeil and Morach Nishlodge from Gléidheadh, and they really helped, but it's like so many other things. If you really want to move something ahead, you have to have local people involved in the planning, development, organization, and presentation of whatever that product is. And Gaelic is consistent with that. And so it's when, and I just have to say, Lewis MacKinnon, I just have to mention Lewis MacKinnon's personal drive towards pushing the government to recognize the importance of Gaelic. He had a lot of people supporting him, like Francis McCachran and people like that in the community and the Gaelic College, and people like Dr. Norman MacDonald. But Lewis's personal drive is really what drove that program ahead and got people, his own personal interest was enough to spark interest in the community throughout Nova Scotia to get the government aware of the importance of Gaelic, and then to establish the Office of Gaelic Affairs and to give more support toward the Gaelic College and to redirect the programs once the Gaelic College had changes in leadership, to redirect the efforts of the Gaelic College to include things they've always had, like piping and Gaelic and the traditional music styles, but to really bring an emphasis on those things that were important in Gaelic culture in Cape Breton, and to jack up their programming regarding promotion and development of the language and language resources. And so it's in the last 10 or 15 years that we've really seen the fruits of that work. A lot of work has been going on for more than 50 years, but it's now that we're really seeing the successful fruition of that initial groundwork and the work that's come since then. And we're seeing young people in their 20s and 30s who not just have an interest in Gaelic, but are speaking it, can and are speaking Gaelic, and speaking it fluently and in the idiom that was common here in Cape Breton, the idioms I should say, because of course we have people from all of the islands of Scotland here and from all over the mainland, and they all brought their own colour and taste of the language with them. And some of those things cross over and we get some cross-pollination, and some of them are still distinct from those places from which they came.
And we can't forget Rodney MacDonald, who was tourism minister at the time when these changes came about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Premier.
Yeah, and Rodney was in this house at the time, right here speaking with my mother-in-law. And he knew those people, and he knew how important the language and the culture was. He grew up grounded in the music and the importance of the rhythm, and you just have to listen to those recordings, not just of the old fiddlers, but of the Gaelic speakers, and people like Lochie Dan and people like the man I mentioned, John Dan MacKinnon, and or John Neil Gillis, or people like that, and to hear them speak. And when they're speaking, you get the rhythm, and it's the rhythm of a Strathspey that comes through. And when you hear Archie Mackenzie and people talking like that, you realize, oh my gosh, all that music is just notes stuck on the language. That's all it is. And it's because the music goes da-da-dee, da-da-dee, da-ba-diddly, da-da-da. And Hinakata, I guess, Capit Fay for the Mackenzies. Jocks, want a Capit Fay, Shopit Hay, Rings Cat Hayarach. That sort of thing. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. So there's an increased interest in Gaelic by young people now. What do you attribute that to?
Well, I think a combination of programs. The Office of Gaelic Affairs, and you mentioned the fact that Rodney was the minister at the time who drove that thing forward, and Lewis MacKinnon was involved as the person steering the office and its activities. But it was the leverage that they had within government that really cranked up more interest and pride in the language, and spun out to the Department of Education, which is a separate department, and the Department of Communities, Culture and Heritage. And those departments, including things like the Art Gallery of Nova Scotia and NASCAD, that all have programming now that touches on Gaelic language and Gaelic language revitalization. And so it goes out beyond just that one particular department and one particular agency, because of the fact that the Highland Village in Iona is now an agency of the Nova Scotia Museum. They have the same ability to push the language and culture forward, and they are doing wonderful work there with their Cainch Mavahet program and programs for Nagashki Kaoka, the Young Heroes that's being run at the Gaelic College. Stádas Savala is an annual program in Iona for heritage language and storytelling and songs. Oh yeah, Faishanellan and Christmas Island. Christmas Island is a place that's very dear to my heart, and the people over there. And I spent a lot of time with those people both there and in Halifax, and particularly, as I mentioned, Archie Alec Mackenzie. And so they have done, yeoman service.
Many people involved.
Oh, very. Yeah.
Revitalization.
Yeah, it takes more than a village. It takes a whole island and the eastern part of Nova Scotia to bring that language back.
And there's many unsung heroes among them too,
And it's people who never spoke a word of Gaelic and maybe didn't even take a Gaelic course, but they opened their homes or they made tea and cookies for different programs and fundraisers, and they parked cars at concerts. And to bring people in, and that spun people on,
Exactly, yes. There was a report released in the spring of this year on culture in Nova Scotia. Did you read that report?
I did, yes. Yeah, I have a copy of it. Yeah. And it's interesting. It does show how the many cultures that we have here in Nova Scotia, so how many of them are on tender ground. The Mi'kmaq culture, the French Acadian culture, the Gaelic culture, and of course there is a culture that's almost disappearing down the south shore of Nova Scotia, the German culture that was brought here by the foreign Protestants who came here in the 1770s and 1750s, I think, and the culture that they brought. Certainly the language has disappeared down there, but the culture that they brought, and the Gaelic culture that we are enjoying still here in eastern Nova Scotia and in Cape Breton and I have to say that the people can't forget that there are a lot of people living in the Halifax Dartmouth metro area. A third of the population is there, and there are a lot of people learning Gaelic in the Halifax Dartmouth area. A very active program by the Halifax Gaelic Society, and they have programs all over the city, milling frolics going on, immersion programs and language weekends, and the Halifax, Dartmouth, Sackville area is a hotbed within the school system as well, where it's taught, the language is taught in the schools, and Gaelic cultural programs are taught in the schools.
So you're very encouraged by it.
I am, yeah, absolutely.
So I want to ask you, what future do you see for Gaelic in the years to come?
It's always hard to predict the future as to what's going to happen, but if we see a continuing of the line, in politics and in sports, how important impetus is, or what's the word that they use? Trending or something like that. How things are moving, the direction in which things are moving. They can be at a certain level but die. But if they're moving in a certain direction and they're moving in a positive direction as they are now, then I can see that things will continue to improve, especially when you see the young people. When we see the example of the fiddling that Father John Angus Rankin, who has connections here to Broad Cove, and he was in Glendale at the time, when he and Frankie McGuinness and a number of other people started, and Betty Matheson, started the Cape Breton Fiddlers Association, and with the first fiddling festivals in Glendale in 1973 and the ones that went on from then. When we see what a small group of people did, and now that music is recognized worldwide, and people come here and write doctoral theses at universities in Ireland and Scotland on the fiddling here, and not as a dying art, but as a vibrant societal expression of the culture of the people.
Yes, indeed. So do you have some advice for learners of any age?
I guess the only advice I can give on any subject is from my own experience. And I started Gaelic expecting that I would never be able to speak it. So if you're starting Gaelic and you think that you can't do it, but you have an interest in it, you have an interest in the songs, or there's something about it, a family connection, take the part that you find interesting and follow that. And if it's songs, before you know it, you'll be able to say simple sentences in Gaelic. Take lessons, go to people, don't be hesitant about asking the old people. I was very hesitant about bothering the old people and asking them, but they're just dying to pass on this treasure that they have. And start with what interests you, follow it, and it's just like wandering around in a big old house. Bit by bit, you'll find out more and more that's in that house, and the more you'll see, the more you'll want to explore, and you'll get more confidence, and your feet will come unto you.
Great. So would you like to add anything else before we end the interview today?
Really, Pauline, I just want to say thanks for your interest and the interest of the Gaelic College, and the interest that they're showing in putting together this archival program. I hope people get some encouragement from seeing this, and that maybe they'll learn a word or two or hear a phrase or two. And even by listening to scratchy speakers like myself, it's just in repetition that anything comes. And the more they listen to things like this archive, the more solid they're going to feel in Gaelic.
Well, I'd like to thank you on behalf of the Gaelic College for participating in the interview, and really appreciate it. You shared lots of good information today, and I want to say Moran Pang.
Well, Shedavea, I'm a hotelister Gondaniku, I guess go chance Akinya and Quark Shaw a Yeno, I guess could be a famil when the Dunya Ekavil Swim, Sagalic, agus fiachking ri becken de chanin sin bheit ó hiún achta acinne agus go bíad ga chumel suas is an bliana sin a tí.